We're starting off week 2 of the Dropping Klefboms fantasy podcast here. Week 1 is in the books. I know we got one happy camper, probably not two, I'm going to say, but it was an exciting first week of fantasy. Long week, went on for a week and a half, so
very long week.
We had a little bit of a delay, but these are going to be doing them every week now, giving an update on how our fantasy league specifically is doing, just breaking down those games, a little bit of fantasy talk here and there. But overall, we're kind of focused on our fantasy league overall, I think.
Dropping Klefboms action.
Some dropping Klefboms action. So I think we're going to kick things off by just reviewing the results of week 1 here. Right? Does that sound good? Anything you want to?
Yeah, let's start there. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I'm just gonna throw this up on the screen here. This is from my perspective.
Standings.
Yeah. So this is just from my perspective of how the games went down. I don't know. Do you want to go into each game specifically, I guess?
Not really. I mean, we can look at the standings and see the matchups if there's any surprises. Did you pull up our predictions?
No, I didn't, but I do remember them off the top of my hand here.
We can go back and hold on. Let's see here.
Are you looking at them right now? Because I remember them. Like, I think our predictions were exactly the same, were they not?
I don't remember. So I had you with a win, Dylan with a win.
Yeah.
Jesse, Joey, and Sean.
Exactly, and that's exact same ones I had. So overall, okay. I think we went 3-2 on the week. With one pretty big upset with Rundle's. Maybe not overall an upset, but like based on the score, a huge smashing on the Rocketries on Jesse there, 10-1. And then we also.
I don't think that's fair though, because he also was missing Ovi. I mean, anytime anyone's missing their first overall pick for like half the week, basically, it's really gonna kind of hinder your chances, right? So like I think that's.
Of course,
those type of things always have to be taken into consideration. But then again, it's 1-0 Jamie, and that's all that really matters. So.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm actually not too upset. The most upset I am is just the fact that I had to use so many ads, and I've had to use so many ads. But the way that I see it is like any smart or intelligent manager will leave 20 to 25 ads for the playoffs / after the playoffs, because you got to think even after the playoffs, in the last couple of days, there's going to be people who drop guys you wouldn't expect them to drop for some Hail Mary type attempts. You want to have a couple ads or drops left for after the season, maybe 1 or 2, maybe max 3, for guys that people drop in those types of situations that you might want to keep. So like you're going to want 7-7-7 for the last 3 weeks. So that's 21 plus your 2 or 3. So to be safe, you want to save 25 out of your 60.
Which is crazy because realistically that only allows you, I think I did the math before and we talked about it before, it's 3.8 ads per week. And if we're looking after week 1, everybody used much more than that at this point.
And they probably expected.
So either people are going to shape up week 2, which I'm going to go out and say probably not going to happen, or they're going to run into a realization come week 7, week 8 that like, holy shit, these ads are adding up. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. See, I feel like this week, I don't know if you've looked at the schedule.
Hold on, you froze here.
I froze?
You're good, yeah. You're back.
Okay. I don't know if you've looked at the schedule or not, but it's a bit of a weird week.
I did, yeah.
In the sense of where like there's really no games on Monday or Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much all the games are Tuesday, Thursday, and then divided between Saturday or Sunday. So like anyone who has extra bodies or wants to use ads will have to use them on the days they aren't full. If there's no games to add guys or there's no worthy guys to add in those games, I mean, sure, on a Saturday or Sunday, if you're trying to win shots on goal or something by 1, you can add whoever you need, right? But like generally speaking, on a Tuesday or on a Monday or a Wednesday of a week, you're not going to burn through an ad when you don't even know if your week's ready to perform. Like if you're down 7-8-0 8-1. You might as well just not use any
Yeah,
ads this week.
this week's much different than the week one. Week one was longer, but also week one we didn't have any days where like your whole roster was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this week you have two.
Plus postponed games, which opened up spots too.
True. Plus this week we do have one postponed game still. It's tomorrow, Carolina, Tampa. And we have 2 days where potentially your entire roster's playing, which could hurt some people that are only running 1D, 2D in those categories, or 3 goalies, because you're not going to be playing all your goalies, but likely if you have 3 goalies,
one or 4 goalies.
Or 4 goalies if you're one, but likely one of those goalies is not going to be playing on a given day, you would think, just based on the rotations that things are happening.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because I was breaking down the schedule just before he came on here and whatever, but like I was looking at my schedule of goalies and the fact that I have 4 goalies. They all play on the same nights. Yeah. So like I'm wasting spots on some nights, just hoping that I think I'm plus minus 6 games, so minus 6 games from skaters. But there's also 3 defensemen on his team who don't really shoot, don't really hit.
Yeah.
So like with me, who are not targeting points necessarily, I feel more confident this week that I can steal an assist or a goal. Because like in 7 days, when you're only playing 3, let's call it 3.5 games, anybody can score a hat trick and win the week, or anyone can. You know, McDavid can go 2 games with getting 4 shots and no points. Like, and then he could explode in the 3rd game, but that's you average it out over 3 games, it's still below average for him.
Yeah. Whereas you last week you had against McDavid, who had 6 games. I'm only gonna be facing him with 3 games, so he's not gonna be as strong against me. I'm hoping it's 3 games.
I had a lucky.
4, but I didn't actually look.
It is 4, I believe. I believe Edmonton has 4 games off the top of my head. But I had a unique balance against that because I had Draisaitl, right? So like, they won't always get the same points, but like, especially on the power play, they'll probably always get points off each other. So like, whether it's a goal or assist, that's one thing, but like, it's still a point. So like, that's the way I feel. Like, especially like if you look at Boston, anyone who has, let's say, Bergeron, Pastrnak, or Marchand, like,
same thing,
if you've like, there's the same type of thing, right? Like it's a huge advantage when you play everyone else, but when you play that one team who has that guy against you, it's very hard to separate from them because of that.
Yeah, and I do remember that being a part of your strategy with certain players last year, with getting one person from those top lines and whatnot. Okay, cool. Do you want to look at, because I know since last time we did pause, it's been about 2 weeks, there's been a lot of trades. So I think that was part of the segment we wanted to do. And I don't think there's a single trade in this thing that doesn't involve you. So I think I was looking through it all here. Trying to date back to, if we go back, I think the first trade.
What was the fact? What was the stat I said to you the other day? I had 25 people play for my team.
Yeah, 25.
And we only have 14 roster spots. So I had plus 11 guys play a game for me. I only have 7 ads, so that's plus 4 guys that I traded for or acquired who played a game for me and either remain on my roster or I have since flipped.
Yeah.
I also added four games via trades, but I also lost 5 games because of COVID and whatnot. So like it didn't get me an advantage, but it saved me some ads. It saved me like 3 or 4 ads. Like this week I'd want to do, right?
Definitely,
it's a win.
You definitely opened my eyes to what potentially trades can mean in the future.
Good.
Not necessarily that it's just for a long-term gain. It could be a weekly gain kind of thing. Definitely potential.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Like when I first set out on this, is like I had a pretty specific strategy that we talked about. I don't know if I want to necessarily go into it too much detail yet. But like they're guys that people are willing to move off of, but they're not replacement level guys. So they're just that tier above. And I just kind of figured I'd wait for guys that maybe love some other shiny toys and overlook this toy over here kind of thing. And with me not having a lot of those toys, so to speak, sure, I'll take them kind of thing, right? And I haven't looked at it yet. I will eventually, but like all my picks go up and down and up and down and up and down. So like I keep trading down to get lower ones, then up to get other ones off players that I want to move off of, and then back down, and so to speak. Like, but with that being said, I really wanted to open up some eyes and like see different potential things and like add some different thoughts that might not have been there, or maybe that might be a little bit more complex.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel every manager will be on board with them, but that being said, why not ask, right? Why not discuss? Because you never know.
Yep. And you definitely have your hand in every cookie jar, that's for sure, with everybody, I think. But
Yeah, I mean that's. I was just gonna say that's the one thing that is a bit of an advantage. Obviously, being commissioner and stuff, I kind of have a relationship with everyone, right?
yep.
So it's easy to be like, "Hey, man, how's it going? Like, what's going on? Whatever. Oh, by the way, like, who's this? Or by the way, would you move that guy? Oh, like, what pick? Like, I mean, I asked you a few times, like this guy. I think I asked you like 3 times about the same guys, but that's just because I was going through so many different guys. I kind of forgot who I asked and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got like specifically Dubois when he got traded. I wanted to ask around in case anyone felt like that was a better situation because you never know, right? So like different things like that instead of a lot like 3 or 4 of the guys that I was just gonna drop, I got offers for or I included in trades. So I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
seem to
well,
pull
I
that off a
guess
lot right before you're about to drop someone. It's like
yeah,
I don't know if people don't clue in that they're your borderline, but I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know. I don't know.
But
I mean, everyone has their things, right? Like a lot of times, especially after 3, 4, 5 years of doing these pools, if you win a pool, sometimes you kind of fall in love with guys, or like if some guy like carries you on their back for a little bit, you kind of fall in love with them a little bit.
yeah,
Whether they get older, whether they lose ice time, whether their
just
teammates
like
aren't as
those
good, whatever the
token
situation
names
is.
sometimes.
Yeah, like I was looking at Claude Giroux today, for example, just because I was looking in my other league, and I was like, oh, I'm looking for a left wing that provides some face-off wins. He doesn't have a face-off win in his last 3 games. And I'm just like,
Really?
wow, yeah. I was like, what? Unless I was like pulled up something wrong, but I know in his last one he had no face-off wins. He had like 1 shot on net, shot on goal. His shots on goal was like 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, and his hits were like 0, 0, 1, 0, 1,
Yeah.
like 0 face-off wins. He had like 2 assists, I think, maybe 1 power play point. Like, I mean, everyone has their fall, but it just kind of is like, if you won a pool 3 years ago with Giroux being your man, you overvalue him, right? So, and I
Yeah.
don't know who owns him in our pool. I'm just in my other pool. I was looking, and I was just like, oh, maybe I'll make an
Earbuds.
offer. But okay. Sometimes that you're like, I'm not even gonna bother offering because it's just the name brand isn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
For sure. For sure. Do you want to go through some of these trades?
yeah. So where do we start?
I think there's this big to start things off here on the 11th. We had like
Let's go. Oldest to newest, right?
Yeah,
It was the one with the Couturier and Dubois.
that one exactly.
Okay. So Nick traded Pacioretty, who was one of his keepers, along with Yaroslav Halak, who I don't know why I pronounce his name like that. Yaroslav Halak, who at the time when I was talking with him, just because I had my hand in that cookie jar, he was a drop. He was just a body. So like whatever, right? And then the 5th round to the 9th round upgrade 4 rounds was to just get 2 centermen. And Nick felt he was kind of weaker at center, and he was looking for guys that might bring value later. So it's almost like capitalize on the value now and then also cash in later instead of holding now, not getting anything now, but then maybe getting a bit more later.
This now. I don't know if Nick will hear this, but I was very disappointed. I went out specifically looking to shop for Pacioretty off Nick, and he wasn't there.
Oh,
and this is how I found out he was involved in this crazy trade of like 8-10 players, whatever it ended up being.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed, and he could have got a lot better, I think. But keep going.
I don't know. I can't speak on that because everyone has their own opinion on whatever, right? And I know that we had a conversation, and he asked, like he texted me, and it was just kind of like, look at this trade. I don't remember how he phrased it, but it was just like, take a look, or like, look at this, or Steve sent me this, or whatever it was. And I was like, actually, that's not too bad. He's like, really? I was like, well, I mean, it depends. And I said, like, if you cash in now and in later, you're getting 2 picks instead of 1, right? Like if your true plan is to get picks, trade him now for what you think is the best value. If you think the value is fair, do it. And then you can also trade Dubois and Couturier. And I said to him, like, I have interest in Dubois. If you happen to get him, I'll give you more picks as well in a bigger deal. So I think maybe he was intrigued that I can get picks and then also picks off Torrey and then get picks later too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe that's where he was mostly focused on, and I believe that's where he was, and that totally makes sense, right?
I kind of forgot that he picks up Dubois by trading Pacioretty, but then trades him again and gets more picks. So it's more than just that one set of picks. Yeah, good point. Good point.
Exactly. So right through that trade, because I wanted Dubois, he flipped Besser, who he took in the 12th round, and I don't know if he valued him or not, but I thought that was a really low pick for him, and I kind of targeted him specifically.
I took Besser in the 8th last year. Or 7th.
Yeah, he was
7th maybe.
I think it was 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere in there. But I felt like two things. I was trying to collect guys in the North Division because I really wanted to enjoy watching hockey and be like, that's my guy. Like, I'm gonna watch every game anyways, but like it just adds a little bit more to it. So he was my target in that trade. And then I was like, if I can get Dubois in the same trade, I'll give you something of worth. Yeah. So then I gave him so it was Besser, Dubois, and Sorokin, who was just a guy at the time. And I got the 13 and 14 rounder. He got 9th and 11th rounder. So he moved up 4 rounds and 3 rounds. So 7 rounds overall. And then he got Lafreniere back, who is now a drop. Josh Anderson back, who will come back around on. Oliver Bjorkstrand, who I actually think is doing fantastic. Let me just look here. Yeah, shots on goal are high, points are decent.
He's a top 10 rounds right now.
Yeah, 106 right now, so 10th rounder-ish. And then Shesterkin, who he liked as I know he doesn't really plan on keeping any goalies ever. He kind of doesn't like the voodoo aspect of goalies. Yeah. So he just feels like he'd rather keep 4 non-goalies and take his chances in the draft or finding one, which is totally understandable, fair. Unless you have like a top guy, right? Yeah. So I think he also thinks that, and I agree that Shesterkin, if he turns it on, you put that on the trade block, that gets you something pretty nice, right?
There could be some good return down the stretch for playoff teams. That need a
nothing higher than a 6 probably, but like you could get like a 9 and an 8 and an 11 or something for it. Mm-hmm. But I also told Nick that the one thing I suggested to him is just to consider, and I think everyone should consider this, that I called it a release valve. And I was like, everyone should have a release valve. Because if you look at Nick's picks right now, after this most recent trade, which we'll get to, he doesn't have anything lower than an 11. Mm-hmm. If you're going to trade with him, you have to trade him a pick higher than 11. So even if it's 10 for 11 or 9 for 11, but then you're starting to talk about these higher numbers and that scares people off, right? So like you almost want a 14th so you can be like, yeah, give me the 10 to the 9. That's only 1 round pick, but then move the 14 up to an 11, but then keep dropping that pick back down to the bottom level as that release valve, just to give ability. Because if you come knocking and you're like, hey, I want this above replacement level but barely guy that, you know, will get claimed off waivers but isn't really worth a lot, no one's going to give him a 10th for him, especially with that being the UFA draft pick. True, yeah. Like, so then they're going to move to a 9, which then there's some keepers. Then you're going to do an 8, and people will be like, no, I don't want to get involved in that. So then all of a sudden you're going to have these assets on an expiring deal when you're not trying to compete. Yeah, you can win the consolation, but like, wouldn't you have wanted all the picks for next year? So like you almost want that release valve just to like give other options, even if it just means moving up a small bit. Yeah. And you don't get like I found myself last year trapped at one point because I was like, oh crap, like I don't have movable assets. Like I have assets, but they're not exchangeable in trades unless we're talking significant players. So that's why I started trading my like secondary guys off that were kind of just above replacement level for whatever I could get in bigger trades, and started asking for like 3 picks in a trade because 3 is the max in our league, right? Yeah. So like I started being like, fine, you know, you're not gonna give me an elite pick. Give me 3 low picks that you don't really care about. And that's how I ended up with, what was it, 5 or 6 picks in the 11th round? Because that's what I ended up turning the original problem into is, you know what, let me create some release valve and then come back and, you know, stock up in the 11th round. So just something to be considered.
Makes sense. All right, let's move on to this next trade. Again, Mister Maverick involved. Well, I'm just going to do a disclaimer. He's involved in every single trade this past week.
Yes.
Yep. Every single one. Yep. Okay.
Every single one.
So you trade Erik Karlsson to Ben. You give up two 14th rounders, right? He, you get David Perron at 10 and 11. I'm just going to couple this with the next trade because you immediately turn Perron around for Tanev from Nick.
That trade was pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I didn't like Perron. I don't value him very much. In terms of what I'm trying to do, I thought he didn't fit my team. But I knew Nick had him last year, and he did well because there were some injuries, and he had a really big season, right?
Yeah.
So I knew Nick kind of valued him. And he's like, well, because I'm rebuilding and I'm trying to get picks, I'm not giving you a pick for him. So that's where we were at. And I was like, well, you know what then? Fine. Use one of your ads. Get me Tanev, swap him to me, and I'll give him to you for free.
Yeah,
so that's
so at the end of the day here, you kind of give up Erik Karlsson for some picks because you end up trading a waiver guy in your mind for another guy that was on waivers. So nothing too crazy here. Moving on,
I just wanted the picks to move the defenseman out so that I could add. Because if I was going to add the third or fourth goalie, you can't then carry 2 or 3 defensemen because then you'll never win.
Exactly.
This
one potentially could come back to be one of the better trades of the season, where you pull off a 1 round, really. You give up a 13 for a 14 and Marc-Andre Fleury. So this was pretty great.
Yes.
Marc-Andre Fleury off to an amazing start. Maybe getting that dagger in the back last season really stepped his game up. But that could potentially, should he continue to play the way he does, possibly take over the crease. Who knows what the potential is there.
Potentially.
But
Vegas has one of the better defensive teams. So, like, it sucks he's in a platoon situation. So, you know, you're not getting every game unless there's an injury or one of them really struggles or something like that. But when they do get in there, you're pretty confident they're going to give up 3 goals or less and probably win. So or win 3 out of 4
worst case
games.
Scenario, most teams are in like that platoon situation this season. Like there's not a whole lot of teams outside of Edmonton who's playing the same goalie every night.
Tampa.
Yeah.
But they're not playing, so that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Tampa. I've only got I've missed half of my games with Vasilevsky, which is a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. But that trade was hilarious. It's funny because that's going to be one that I'm going to be looking back all year because I asked Sean, he picked up Fleury, and I was watching him on free agency. I was like, I should get him. And I watched him for like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, I should get him. And there's sometimes like players where I'm just like, I almost delay enough till somebody else gets him, and then it's like, oh, you saved me the trouble. I guess it was never meant to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. And then he got him, and I immediately regretted it. And I was just kind of like, hey, you dropping him when you're done with him? Because that was when he has Bobrovsky and Hellebuck. And Bobrovsky missed those games, so he only picked up Fleury. He doesn't want 3 goalies. He only picked him up because Bobrovsky was missing games. And I knew he wouldn't clear waivers. And I knew that I didn't want to try to put in a blind bid. Or who knows how much. I mean, Tatar got $22, so I'm not trying to rattle that, but I'm just saying you don't know what
Tatar.
People value.
Teravainen got
right?
$25.
Oh, Teravainen, sorry, yeah. But either way, it's just kind of like I knew I needed to trade for him if I was going to get him. I knew I couldn't get him any other way, so I was just like, "Can I get him?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure. I just need to get a couple games out of him, and then I'm going to drop him anyway. So for a free round." Why not? And I kept hounding him about Bobrovsky. I know we talked in the podcast about how hot I am on Florida. I was like, if he went that late, like I want him. And I kept bugging him about Bobrovsky. He kept saying no. And finally we settled on this for Fleury. So it will be funny at the end of the season if we look back and Bobrovsky has another poor year where he got only 1 round for Fleury, where he should have maybe kept Fleury and traded off Bobrovsky for bigger return at the time.
Hindsight's 2020.
I was prepared to give up. It is. So I mean, we'll see. That's why it will stick with me all year to see.
All right. We got a lot of trades here. This is probably going to be the most trades in one. Well, maybe the trade deadline will be a little crazier.
Oh yeah.
But then you're at it again, picking up another goalie here, Tuukka Rask. You're giving up a 5th rounder though this time. Vladimir Tarasenko.
9 rounds.
9 rounds. Vladimir Tarasenko, Krilly Kaprasov or whatever. I don't even know.
Kirill Kaprizov, yeah.
I didn't even know this player existed until you tried to trade him to me. Just kidding, but not kidding. Tarasenko, I think, pretty inevitably out for the season, isn't he?
Nope. Supposed to be back in the week 8.
Oh, okay. Shows what I know. Shows how much I valued him.
They said he won't be back before week 6, but he shouldn't be back any later than week 9.
Okay, so that could pay off for Steve down the road.
7-8 trade deadline. Yeah, that's like a trade deadline acquisition, right? If he comes back at the trade deadline in that matchup week of 7-8, that's it. He got a big scoring winger, which is what he's running one goalie, right? He's trying to win the scoring categories. So that's a big ad for him, right? Especially when, like, we talked about it, he was hesitant to move Rask, and like, obviously I give intelligence sometimes, just for informed decisions, but sometimes it makes people think different things. But I just said basically, like, yeah, Rask's one of the best goalies, but he platoons basically with Halak, and I don't think Boston's as elite as they were. So they're probably second, maybe third in the division, potentially top team, but not by a long stretch. Mm-hmm. So like, if Boston only gets 2.5 to 3 wins a week, Rask is only getting 1 to 2 of those. So like, you're paying for a win and a half on 2 starts with good categories, which isn't a lot.
Nothing like downselling the player you're trying to get, right?
But that's the thing. It's in this year, right? Like any other year, this wouldn't apply. But this specific year, it totally sucks having goalies. And that's why I have 4, because I don't trust there's not going to be COVID issues. I don't trust that there's not going to be, whatever happens. I want the security, because I don't feel anything on free agency is worth it right now.
It is interesting to say, though, that he did draft him in the 4th round, and he only got a 5th round for him. So,
but he got 9 rounds, which is almost a whole draft.
I guess so, yeah. You
Not
do
almost,
get to jump
but like 2/3.
A whole bunch there, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're getting for next year you're getting a trade asset at the deadline this year. You're getting whatever Kaprizov brings, which I believe he's more of a Panarin than I don't know who's another European that didn't do much, but like, I do believe he's legit. I do think he's legit. Like, maybe not top 60, 70. I think he'll finish probably somewhere between 75 and 95 overall.
So potentially on a team like Steve's, though, he's the borderline. He has to drop kind of guy if he's in a fight of his life and he needs to release him. I don't know Steve's lineup in front of me yet, but we'll do this.
It could be a thing where when Tarasenko comes back, he might have to drop Kaprizov for Tarasenko, which would suck, but we'll see when that happens, right?
Yep. And next, again, goalies on the move from Tori's team. I guess same with this was 2 days later with Steve. You're giving him a goalie for Zach Hyman. Both late rounds. Georgiev for Zach Hyman. Kind of.
Yeah, I woke up to a text saying, "Sent you a trade offer, LOL." I was like, "Oh God, what did he send me?" I was like, "Oh, that's pretty respectable."
Yeah.
And we counter offered 3 times, just the different picks that were involved. It started with a 14-13, and then I asked for a 14-11 or 13-11, and then he countered with the 14-12, and then I countered with the different 12s, like who I thought would be the lower picks in those rounds.
It's good. It's funny. I did pick up Zach Hyman, I think that same day in my other league. So I have some value there. I like that for you.
Fits my team.
I guess this next 4 trades is actually all like really one trade.
It's one trade.
You want to
that's what I wanted to touch on.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I wanted to pull off, because this is the example we can use on how 3-way trades can work, but also explains why they're so complex.
Yeah.
So in a trade, if you can't make it work through Yahoo, like, I will not manually transact any trades. So if it's like, oh, I need to, I need you to add this guy before we complete this trade. No, I'm not doing that. But if you can do it this way, where it's accept trade, and I accept it as the commissioner, you make another trade, accept, and it's all transactional through Yahoo, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it had to be done this way, so that it worked. Because obviously you can't do a true 3-way trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of explains how it all went down. But the reason also why it wasn't just simply a lot between me and Nick So as the trade we talked about before, when Josh Anderson was flipped to Nick, he was flipped as kind of, here's my extra body. I know you like him. Take a chance on him. Maybe he can get you an asset later. I want the guy back in Besser and Dubois.
Yeah.
So then after that happened, I was like, you know what? I changed my strategy and I was like, shit, like Anderson fits my strategy perfectly. He's a guy that not a lot of other people like. I asked around the league to most people just to see like, hey, do you want Josh Anderson? To be honest, most of the reason why I asked is because I felt like if other people wanted him, they should have an opportunity to get him.
Yeah.
Before I try to make this thing happen. So I kind of was not forcing it because I wanted to let people know like he's available. If you like him, they're yours. I can't like I'm not going to force it through, right? So that's why I wanted to check around, and pretty much no one said they wanted him, and pretty much everyone said no one said they wanted Dubois either. So Nick and I couldn't trade them back because we had already traded the bodies to each other.
Yep.
So we couldn't trade those bodies back to each other. So that's the rule of the league. So you asked a good question. Well, why don't you just drop them? And I said, well, that's fine with me. That's totally cool. But for Nick, who's rebuilding and wanting assets, he doesn't want to drop Josh Anderson. Like he expects 1 to 2 rounds out of him. Mm-hmm. So like to force him on waivers just for the sake of, making it look cleaner, it's not fair for Nick. For me, yeah, I don't have any,
no, I get it. And at the same time, is some value in having an ad.
Exactly, right? So
kind of season.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I got Ben involved and why he kind of looks like he didn't really get much. Kubalik's just a body, but I had to trade Dubois to Ben and then to Nick, and Nick had to trade Josh Anderson to Ben and then to me. Mm-hmm. So I picked up the tab, so to speak. I paid Ben my pick so that he could help facilitate the trade, because obviously you have to give up something. Somebody's got to get some sort of asset to be involved.
Right? Exactly. He can't get nothing really.
Yeah, like to facilitate that, you need to make sure they get something, right? So I said, I said to him, like, look, this is what I want to do. If you want him, he's yours. If not, do you want a round? Do you want 2 rounds? What do you need to make this happen? There was 1 round, so I gave him the offer, and he said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So that's why it had to go the certain way too. So it started by Dubois to Ben for Palmieri, who was my first drop or next drop. And then Dubois went to Nick or Anderson. Anderson went back to Ben and then to me, where I paid Ben the 1 round. And then I made the separate trade to Nick for the 2 goalies. And I basically paid him to pick up Gibson in the morning for me, which is funny because we were talking about it. And you said, oh, I think Steve might get him. And I looked at the ads in the morning, and it was like 40 minutes after Nick added him at like 4:41. At like 5:20 in the morning, Steve added another goalie. So
I just know Steve's pattern.
You're right on that.
I know his pattern. He always Monday mornings he does make moves, and he needed a goalie for the week, and he always just takes the best goalie on the market.
Yeah.
And Gibson would have been the best. So you would have been right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just talk about this one other thing that happened in the week. We'll call it the ad money, where someone paid up some money.
Okay. Yep.
Waiver wire transactions in our league. You got the dollar. You can bid dollars when someone hits waivers. We had one person pay up when Teravainen hit the waivers. They used a quarter of their budget to pick him up, and he's sitting on IR right now. What do you think about this?
I think that is like I've never valued Teravainen. Like, to me, he's a good player, but in terms of fantasy, he's kind of just one of those guys that he happened to be on the line that caught fire, so he was kind of the Robin, or he was kind of just happened to be tagged along for the ride.
He's lucky he's on a line with Aho and Shvechnikov, really.
But now they have Trocheck playing with them a lot. That's why I picked up Trocheck.
The interesting thing, the only thing I didn't understand about this, I don't understand his plan. He used a quarter of his things, but right now Teravainen's on IR. When he comes back from IR, he has to drop someone. which to me
Yeah,
his entire roster is better than Teravainen. So I don't know where he's going with this.
that's.
I'm assuming he's gonna drop Barzell, but I
I
don't
think
know.
he's gonna try and trade somebody off, maybe. But
Possible.
um, it's funny because when you first mentioned the waivers, I thought you were going somewhere else. I thought you were trying to go back to the trade because the trade that where I sent Carlson to Ben.
Mhm.
I
Oh
actually
yeah.
in the trade because I asked for picks, and originally when I asked for the picks because he was Carlson was taken in the 6th round,
Yeah.
so he's like, well, I'm not giving you anything higher than a 10. So I was like, all right, let's do 2 picks, and I want $10, so that gives me the advantage. If somebody drops a guy that everyone bids on, I
Yeah.
will win because I have the most money. So that is the only transaction that the commissioner will be involved with. If there's ever wallet funds, because you can't select that within a trade,
Yeah.
but it is acceptable within trades. That is the one thing that I will
So
annually
can
change.
you trade a player for picks and money and that's it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna go sell a player for $16 just to get the advantage on you here.
It's a strategy. Like that's the thing. You could do something that like that and give up an asset and then find out that all year there's no one worth bidding on. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of to get to what your original question is. I think that might be part of Dylan's thinking is that like, hey, this guy was a top, I think 50 player last year.
Yeah.
If he's legit again, I'm getting a free top 50 player on top of this team I already have.
Mhm.
Let's bid.
And if we look at
So I think
last
that's part
year,
of it.
most people ended the season with their entire wallet still in hand, right? So it's not a
Yeah,
surprise.
a lot of them. I think there was only like 5 or 6 waiver ads, and a lot of them were single digit dollars. So like $3, $5, $9. I think there was one that was like 15 or 18 or 20, maybe 25. Nothing too significant, but
I
I
do
think it
want
was
to.
you with Wilson.
No, I got Wilson for
Maybe
free.
no. Oh, okay. But to fully answer your question about Dylan, because I mean I shouldn't really say too much because him and I have been chatting. And I don't want to like just spew out everything he tells me in confidence. Um, but basically, like I was just saying to him, like a potential strategy I could see, like if I had his team and I had to manage his team, I would almost ride the wave of the IR because there's gonna be COVID games. There's gonna be
Mhm.
this guy's being scratched tonight because of being safe or whatever they call it, abundance of safety as the NHL likes to call it. So like there's gonna be guys left, right, and center here and there for a game, whatever, that are put on day to day, and he can just kind of instead of using free agency, he can use the guy on his roster. Yeah, if it turns out
That
you have
makes sense.
Kachuk
Yeah.
or Stamkos on the IR and you need him, there might be a situation where you got to drop a good player, or you're like, fuck, I got to find a trade in the next 24 hours and like get what I can take just so I can make a move.
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't envy the second part of that. I think I'm always a believer in being proactive. So like if I was him, I would be like, who don't I like? Who would I move?
Yeah, it's kind
Who
of like
whatever and
I can
sell
see the
them.
strategy. Like even when Teravainen comes back, he can leave him on IR until someone else gets injured, and then just swap him. That makes sense. I can see
Yeah. So I
that.
mean, it could suck where like let's say because I'm looking at his team, let's say Marchand is questionable and he slides him to day, and then all of a sudden he plays. You're missing a game of Marchand, so like there's a risk of that.
Yeah.
Like if it's your better players, but at the same time you also aren't burning ads, and you also don't have to drop a guy that probably shouldn't be on free agency. Like I wouldn't claim Teravainen, but
No, it makes sense. I can see where it's going. All right.
hmm,
Let's look at this upcoming week 2, big week.
yep.
We got, let's see, I guess only one matchup where two teams are undefeated. The rest are kind of a mix and match, and then we got one matchup where both people are playing for their first win.
I think we should start with the let's go with Dynasty versus Rundle's Puckets matchup.
All right, Dynasty versus Rundle Puckets.
We got an 0-1 team and a 1-0 team. Like you said, a bit off the top. Not that surprising, but Jamie's team could be a bit of a powerhouse. Like they look pretty strong.
Yeah, he had a
Or at
good
least they
first
did
week.
last
He
week.
had a lot of points, pretty strong. He's got a full IR bench. Got two solid goalies. He's running the 2D strategy, which is pretty standard in this league at this point. Yeah,
And two good defensemen too.
yeah, two, yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I don't know if Jesse, or sorry, I'm not sure if Nick it is, sorry, that hasn't set his lineup or not, or hasn't done the ads that he wants to do or whatever. But he's also 8 games back.
Yeah, right now
projected 8 games
yeah,
back.
it's because he has 2 guys on his bench.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and that's the only thing, and he just hasn't set it up. But I guess we're gonna
Yeah.
go right to predictions. For me, this is pretty easy. I'm gonna give this one to Rundle.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what kind of physicality he has, and Nick's goalies would have to put up a week, which in a week where there's less games to be played, I think the advantage goes to the team with more goalies, because you can target the wins and saves and get it easier.
Yeah.
But then obviously because goals against and save percentage are a bit fluke. So like, I think if Nick sweeps the goal, the way that Nick can win is if he sweeps goalies and physicality, which I don't think he's quite set up for. So yeah, I agree. I think it's Rundle going 2-0 to start the season.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Next one. Let's go.
Joey and Jesse.
Joey versus Jesse. The Rocket Trees coming off first loss. Joey won his first match against Nick. Joey's the only one in the league yet to make a move.
Yeah, that's not surprising though. I mean, he's usually pretty reserved with his moves. He usually kind of likes to do his activity later on. But I think he also just likes that dash. Keep that dash as long as possible. No, don't replace it with a number.
What dash? Oh,
I mean, I'm going on.
I gotcha.
For the 0 moves. I mean, I got 15 ads already, so I mean.
So taking a look here, I think off the top of my head here, I'm gonna be leaning towards Joey to take this one down. I guess Ovechkin's probably gonna miss at least the next couple games still, right? For Jesse's team.
He misses this week basically.
Yeah, so that's really hurting Jesse. Jesse only has one goalie. He's gonna have to make some moves. He's got to get something going here. Still running 3D, so him and a couple other, I think 2 other people have 3D still. But without Ovechkin, Jesse's in trouble. He's gonna have to make some moves. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it's funny that you touch on the defenseman there, because I'm kind of expecting a little roll of transactions in the next 2-ish weeks of guys kind of kicking defensemen to the curb.
Yep.
I feel like there's 1 or 2 on a lot of teams that just a second line forward provides more. So like, maybe not hits, but like,
it all depends. When, to me, 3 defensemen can work if every week starts being like this Tuesday, Thursday that we're having this week. The 3 defensemen can kind of, those extra 2 games they can make the difference. Yeah, they can make up what having the 2 defensemen has been doing in the past. You know, it's almost like a wash at that point, in my mind. So,
but see, I would combat that and say, well, if you're willing to make adds and drops, well then run the forwards through the week, and whenever there is a night, if there is a night that's full, we'll drop a guy for a defenseman to get the game.
Yeah.
But or drop it for a defenseman on a back-to-back to get 2 games.
Yeah,
or something.
You can't rely on that with the 3.8 ads, man. You gotta be tight. You gotta be tight with the wallet.
But I'm talking maybe a team like Jesse or Joey, I mean, that hasn't really used any ads. Like all of a sudden he could be like, damn, 7 ads just to get you, right? Like, yeah, that's what will get interesting later on when some people are really hesitant to use ads. Like, I'm gonna chill for a little bit. Like, I only have, now that I've traded all these trades, like there's really only 1 spot on my roster that is flexibility. So I want to keep that open for ads and drops, / like if I get an injury, it opens a spot here and there. But I don't really intend on making many more ads for the next little bit, unless I'm required to do so, or like somebody just too stupid not to is on waivers. So
yeah, makes sense. All right, let's look at this next one. Goalies versus Ben. Captain Clutch, Steve. I think this is my marquee matchup of the week. I think
so too.
This is going to be important.
Either that or you and Dylan. One of the 2.
I just think if Ben gets out to an 0-2, that's going to be tough to dig out of.
Yeah, especially when he's got good players on his team. Like, although Liney's hurting him right now because he's going to have to go through the trade protocol stuff now, right? So he doesn't have him for 2 weeks unless the unless the government makes an accommodation.
I don't think it's as long for Lane as it is for Dubois, is it? because it's American versus.
I'm pretty sure it's 10 days.
Still the same.
I'm pretty sure it's
eh?
10 versus 14 days. So it is less. It's 4 days less, but it's still 10 days. So, I mean, that would have been 10 days as of what, yesterday or the day before? So there's still 7-ish days left, I believe.
Let's see here. Columbus, he needs a visa and then needs to quarantine for 7 days.
So visas don't happen overnight.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's going to take 3 to 5 days, probably 3 to 5 business days, and then
I'm willing to bet Laine is on the playing a game much before Dubois at this point.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm just saying I don't think Ben has Laine this week, I guess.
Oh, this week? Like, I would agree.
I think he's out this week, which hurts him a lot because Matthews only has 3 games, I believe, and Malkin isn't hot, and like the other guys are kind of he's trying to replace some spots right now, so it's
the one advantage that he does have is he has 2D to Steve's 1 with those 2 days I was talking about, and I give him the edge in goal. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this one to Ben, to be honest.
Now that I look at the goalies, like I feel like this could potentially be the week where they kind of fall on their face. I mean, Georgiev's just above replacement level, or he's like a flex option. Like he's nothing too special. Korpisalo's same kind of situation, better stats, probably less win capacity. Blackwood has been just a magician in the last week. So like, I mean, Ben doesn't have Samsonov, which hurts, but I mean, he picked up Vanacek to replace him for a couple of games. So like, that's going to help. So he took the stash in Francouz.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
He was asking me, and I was just like, well, I mean, he's on a good team. I don't believe in him. I don't think he's that good, but he's on a good team. So, I mean, like,
when he's healthy,
stash a guy.
Yeah, but when he's healthy, he still doesn't platoon with Grubauer. He never has.
Yeah, but
so yeah, it is what it is.
I also don't trust that. I don't trust Grubauer will finish the season in between the pipes. Like, he's one of those goalies that's. I'm sorry, he's just one of those goalies that he always gets hurt. It's like an anti-Ranta. Like, they always just get hurt, and like that's why they haven't been number 1 goalies, because they can't stay in the crease. Like, if they could stay in the crease, their talent level is there, but they just can't stay in the crease. Yep. So it's just like, if that's the case, then I mean, he's a good stash, because now all of a sudden he's the starter on supposedly the best team in the league, or one of the top 2-3 teams in the league. So it's a good stash, solid stash. I mean, will it turn out? Might not. You might just drop him in, like I told him, you might drop him in 3 weeks. You might literally just waste an ad. But by the time he comes back, maybe something happens. What if
never know, Grubauer
COVID happened? Yeah, like, you never know, right?
It could pay off, yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I think is going to – one last thing I think is going to pay off for people is taking these gambles on some of these goalies, or being able to add a goalie later if you don't have good ones, because there's going to be injuries. There's going to be trades. There's going to be situations that happen, goalies that just don't perform, whatever. There's probably 4 or 5 goalies out there right now on free agency that just need something to bend or break the right way. Like Jake Allen, for example, or Jack Campbell. Like, you know, an injury to Carey Price or Freddie Anderson, they become immediate ads, right? So like, somebody that's going to happen to, somebody's going to get the benefit of it. It's going to be interesting to see which one it is.
That's always what I do. I always swoop in later in the season for a goalie. That's how I roll. So
that's your style, and you always get one. So like, it'll happen.
Yeah, last year I got Carter Hart, no problem.
Yeah, that was good.
And then I got Leonard down the stretch, no problem.
The good news for you is that a lot of teams have one good goalie at least. So like, whoever the 3 or 4 teams that are not in the running come trade deadline, I'm sure one of them you.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm kind of like sitting low, sitting pretty, waiting for people to be like, oh, I'm not going to make the playoffs. Then I'm, grab your players. Come on. All right, let's move on.
I don't have the pleasure of that, because if I waited, I wouldn't be anywhere near the playoff picture. That's why I had to do all my magic early. Get it done where people aren't really. I have to capitalize on niche issues. So like this year, when no one's making moves, I'm making moves. When no one's adding guys, I'm adding guys, trying to find the right guys. Like, and then when everyone else is making trades and adding guys, I'll just step back, because I can't really negotiate in that party anyways, right? Yeah, so that's a lot of why I went out like that. But
yeah, makes sense. Speaking of making moves, let's talk about your matchup here with Beer Buds.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
I'm a bit scared.
I'd be a bit scared too. We got two 0-1 teams, both looking for their first win. Ex-President's Trophy champion versus you. I don't know. Like, after watching your craziness fall a little bit short last week, I don't know. You seem confident that the strategy can work. He's doing 3D to your 1. I'm just trying to look at the difference. Goalie wise, I give you the edge. I'm not sold.
I have the edge on everyone in goalie now.
Yeah.
I have the edge on everyone in net. Let's just make that clear.
I just think I am not sold on Bobrovsky myself.
Yeah.
But again, that's based off what 1-2 games by Florida, so that's not much. So like anything that Connor Hellebuck's been bringing to him is kind of, in my mind, counterproductive to Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I honestly I am giving you the edge to you on this one. I'm going to be honest.
The thing that scares me about this matchup, and I know we've talked a lot, and I don't want to get into too much of my strategy. I don't want to give it all away too early, but like, basically, we agree that the fact I have 4 goalies, I have a huge advantage on saves and probably wins. But if you have 1 goalie or 2 goalies and they both put up a couple good starts off the start of the week, and you don't dress them, yeah, you can win wins and saves, but you're done for save. You can't catch save percentage and goals against unless you have like 4 shutouts, right? So I'm scared because my main weakness is exactly like a guy like him, and it's going to be like this a lot this year. But the good news is that Hellebuck only has 2 games this week.
Yeah. He'll play both, though.
So, and he will, but that's 2 games. You need 4 starts. So he's starting at least 2 games for Bobrovsky, if not somebody on waivers, which, I mean, maybe if he doesn't believe in Bobrovsky, if you want to give him a chance and see first, if he flexes a goalie and flexes good starts or something, that's what I'm terrified of. If all of a sudden you add like a Campbell and an Allen, you add 2 wins and like good stats, like I'm out at that point. So like that's what I'm afraid of. But I with the fact he has 3 defensemen, with the way I'm built, that plays right into my strategy too. So I've got the goalies kind of working against me, but I've got the skaters kind of working for me. But then I'm also back 7 games, I think, for skaters. So I've got to make up the shots on goal and the hits, which I do have ads. I don't really want to use them, but I'm working on a spreadsheet where it's just like taking the average production from players, so I can use it against each team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the average production I get from my guys can outweigh the difference in the categories I need. And if I happen to fluke into an assist or a points or a game-winning goal or something, that even goes in my favor more.
Yeah.
I think that my team is obviously different, but I feel like I'm built for ties.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm going to have a lot of 6-5, 6-6, 5-5 matchups. I don't think I'm going to lose or win very much, but I think there's going to be a lot of weeks. I don't think I'll like lose more than like 4 in a week.
How do ties get broken in the playoffs? Better seed?
It's winning percentage, so less losses.
Yeah, so
two ties is better than a loss. Yeah.
Okay, 2 ties better than a loss. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So if you're because that's what it was last year for one of the teams that decided. I can't remember what it was, but because there's 2 buys, I think it was the 3rd team. Was it you or?
So who's your prediction? You got yourself in this one?
I was really disappointed to hear that the Tampa Carolina game got canceled because I added both Killorn and Trocheck. So I wasted 2 ads on guys that are already missing 1 game and potentially missing a second. Like we don't know for sure yet, right? That they're playing Thursday. So it's just like if I happen to lose the Tuesday and the Thursday and I'm only getting a Saturday, Sunday game out of 2 of my ads, I may have just set myself up for a bad situation. So like, I will be honest, I'm going to be pretty selective with my goaltending. I'm not going to run them out there until maybe later in the week when I have to. But because I don't have Vasilevsky on Tuesday, I have 1 start with Rask, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I have to start Fleury, which I have no problem starting Fleury now. But
yeah, Fleury won't play the next game, though.
Yeah.
So
But I think I'm going to have to go with 2 games from Gibson this week, which...
Yeah, I think
we'll see if it's
Fleury
legit,
only
right?
gets 1 game this week too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's 1 from Fleury, 1 maybe 2 from Rask, 1 maybe 2 from Vasilevsky, depending. I think they're on a back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna just say this all year. It's a tie. I'm gonna say we're gonna tie.
Sounds good.
I say 5-5 tie.
All right, let's look at this last matchup of the week, saving the best for last.
Yeah, this one should be good.
It's me versus Dylan, both undefeated. The only undefeated matchup this week. I'm worried. I'm sweating in my boots a little bit. I thought about making a move today to put Demko in just to get a little bit of a head start on goalies. But then I chickened out and I'm not doing that. So.
Yeah, I mean, just what we exactly talked about. I think that your better chance at success this week is to be selective with your starts. I mean, what does Grubauer's schedule look like? Back-to-back, 26, 28, 30. So 3 games, he'll get probably all 3. Oh, it's 4 games, but there's a back-to-back.
He'll likely play. I would say he might only play 2 of the 3, or of the 4.
Yeah.
He's definitely only playing 1 of those back-to-backs. Yeah. They'll probably ride him all 3. It all depends. If I say if Francouz gets back, he'll play 2. Just because they've been riding him. They'll
probably want to get him in for a couple games. Yeah.
No, I think that if you more than 1 game in a row, Francouz.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is that he's going to beat you in wins and saves. You won't beat him in wins and saves. So like you got to beat him in goals against, save percentage, and hope that you tie the shutouts so that you can go 2-2-1 in goalies, and then you're ready to battle. I think if you do any worse than that, you're in tough.
I did the match up. If we played each other week 1, I would have won. So I do have a little bit of confidence in that. It does hurt right now because Wilson is day-to-day, and he's like my big hit contributor. It's uncertain if he's going to play on Tuesday still. It's a lower body injury, which also kind of concerns me because before he left the game, he had 0 hits that one day after 12 minutes. And like the 2 games before, he had a combined 18 hits. So like,
oh crap!
I'm wondering if like he was overhitting and injured himself, and now he's going to not hit as much. I do have some concerns around Wilson right now.
Yeah,
he's a big part of what makes my team successful in general.
Yeah, like that's why I'm kind of building on physicality, because if you really look at the physical players that also score or score at enough level to make them worthy, there's only a handful around the league. Like there's 8 or 10 tops, depending on how low you want to put your bar. Mm-hmm. And like there's a lot of teams out there who have 1 of them or maybe 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of teams out there that don't have any of them. So like against those teams, like a lot of the teams this league, like hits, I think people overlook hits.
They do, and that's how I was so successful last season, is I'd win that category every week.
Yeah. And like that's the thing with the 2 or 3 defensemen. Like there's not a lot of defensemen that score and shoot and or hit. Mm-hmm. Like those are pretty rare. And then a lot of players, like I always classify the players, like if you're a playmaker, you don't shoot unless like you have to. Like it's a 2-on-1, the guy clearly takes the pass away and you're like, oh crap, I gotta shoot this. Like they always look for the pass, right? Yeah. So like you don't want those guys if you're looking to win shots on goal. And there's 2 or 3 of those guys on every team. And it's like they're not worthy to be dropped because they're way too good for that. But they also don't contribute in those categories. And I feel like shots on goals and hits, like they're the 2, in my mind, most attainable or predictable stats. Like you never know when people are going to score or get power play chances or even capitalize on power play chances. A guy that hits. Might be 4 hits, might be 6 hits. He hits. Or a person that shoots 4 or 5 shots almost every game. Like that's valuable, right? Because the hot and cold ebbs and flows. You'll just ride them. So.
All right, who you got this week? I'm picking myself. I'm just going to find a way to win. You can say it. I know you switched off me midweek last week. It hurt.
I know it hurt. I have a funny feeling that Dylan's gonna have a hard week. I think you got the mojo right now for some reason.
It's confidence.
Yeah, I think you just got the mojo right now, and I think you're gonna take it. I think it's gonna be close.
It's
I
gonna be a
think it's gonna be
battle.
like a
I'm gonna be
6-5,
sweating
but
my ass off. I'm gonna be
yeah,
sweating
I
it off.
think put it this way: I think you'll come out on top, but I think you're gonna use more ads this week than you wanted to. I think you'll have to use at least five,
I'll
six
be
ads
honest. I'm willing to use all 7 this week.
to try and beat him.
This is a potential President's Trophy kind of fucking battle right here. Everything on the line.
That's what I told Dylan. Is that it's gonna be tough for him because he doesn't want to move his guys and whatever. He's trying to cycle with his own guys because they're so good. But then other guys are gonna look at him like you're the favorite. So like, if I'm gonna use 7 ads in a week, I'm saving them for you.
Exactly.
So like, there's gonna be a lot of people that are coming at him, and I think there's a lot of people that they know I'm competitive, but I feel like they're gonna look at my team and be like, this roster's a joke. Like, I don't need to use ads, and then they're gonna look at it on Friday and be like, how am I down by 4 wins and like how does he have 3 shutouts and like what the hell's going on? But yeah.
No, I'm looking. I've kind of planned out my week. I'm lucky in that on Tuesday, I do have one winger that has an off night, so I don't have someone sitting. He has 2 players in the postponement game, whereas I only have 1.
Yep.
So
is that Hamilton and Forsberg?
Hamilton, Stamkos.
Oh, true.
So
which are big because that's this big shooting D.
Hurts him much more than it hurts me.
That's true.
He has Bennington going up against Vegas this week, so if he puts Bennington in tomorrow and Bennington gets lit up, thank you. My team's looking out for me. I'll be wearing that Fleury jersey tomorrow. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be a fun week. I'm excited to see Barakov back in action, and hopefully he's everything I paid for in round 2.
I hope so too. I have him in my other league, and I'm hoping for big things. So I'm excited for this week, and I really hope that there's not a lot of these postponed games because it's gonna make things interesting. Because like I was thinking about it today, and then I was like, it sucks about the whole Killorn ad that I made that. Tampa's already missed some games, whatever, and like these other teams that have. But the good news is that if these players are good and you have them later in the matchups that could mean more, or at least when you know what you really need and want and where you're at in terms of competitiveness, you're adding a game here and you're adding a game there, potentially 2 in 1 week, depending. Like you could turn another 2-game week into a 4-game week, and now all of a sudden that week is no longer a week or like a whatever, right? So. Pro and con with it, but the last thing I want to say is just my goal this year is I want to make a trade with every team. I'm already halfway there. The only teams that I haven't traded with are, well, it is technically half. It's you, Dylan, Joey, Jamie, and Jesse. And I've already talked trade with Dylan, Joey, and Jamie, but I've since moved the players that we talked about, or I've moved on the assets that would have had to be involved. So. Yeah, there's one trade out there still, but that's it.
I have a feeling we can figure something out this year. It might be one you're about to miss the playoffs and you need to trade some of your best players, but
that's the thing is I have valuable players, so if nothing works out, well, I have guys I can flip off.
Yeah, exactly.
See where it goes.
All right, man. Good luck this week.
Yeah, you too, man.
Let's take it home. Peace.